There is more uncertainty around access to abortion pills in the United States. On Friday, the safety of the medication mifepristone was called into question by a Texas judge, despite being in use for more than 20 years. The White House says it's watching the situation closely.
There is no question that the President and I are going to stand with the women of America and do everything we can to ensure that women have the ability to make decisions about their health care, their reproductive health care, in a manner that is what they need, and they decide that, not their government.
The lawsuit in the Texas case was filed by the Alliance Defending Freedom. The group was also involved in the case that led to Roe v. Wade being overturned. Mifepristone has been used by millions of women over the past 23 years. Complications are reported at a lower rate than some minor procedures. The Food and Drug Administration says it will continue to make the medication available in the wake of the rulings. A judge ruling on a similar case in Washington state came to almost the opposite conclusion. Legal experts say the two different rulings mean the case could quickly head to the Supreme Court. And joining us to talk about these two rulings is Michele Goodwin. She is a chancellor's professor at the University of California, Irvine, and visiting professor at Harvard Law School, and also founding director of the Center for Biotechnology and Global Health Policy. And she joins us today from Santa Barbara. So, Michele, thank you so much for making some time for us today.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Two different rulings from two different judges, one, like we were just saying, from Texas, the other one there from Washington state. So what happens legally in this instance?
Well, it's important to know exactly how these cases came about. In one instance, there's a bit of form shopping, meaning that in the Texas case, it's one lone judge who sits in Amarillo, Texas, who prior to serving on the court was an anti-abortion activist himself and who participated in anti-abortion activities and whose candidacy for the judiciary was actually opposed by Susan Collins out of Maine because she articulated that he might be injudicious given his prior expressions against abortion and not open to hearing what all parties might have to say. This judge at earlier hearings, in fact, asked the petitioners exactly how he should rule in this case and how he should write this opinion, because this is unheard of. This would be the first time that there has been a petition to overturn or withdraw from the market a drug that the FDA has approved. The arguments in the case was that the FDA moved too swiftly in bringing this drug to the marketplace and did not do a thorough study. It's worth noting that this drug was under 54 months of review by the FDA, and at the time in which it came into the market in 2000, the other drugs in that term basically spent 15 months under review. So there were a number of inaccuracies that undergirded this case. Now in Washington, it was a case that was brought by states' attorneys general to make sure that the drug would not only stay on the market, but that it could in fact be more expansively used in the United States. Two very different orders, as you say.
Which, as we were also saying, sets this up for the potential that it could be escalated to the Supreme Court. So how do you think that will go? What could we see come out of that, if that is indeed what happens?
Well, that's a very good question, because the Supreme Court has a majority of justices who've articulated themselves, even prior to serving on the court or while serving on the court, anti-abortion views and broader hostilities to reproductive freedom and rights. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who effectively replaced Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court after her untimely, though perhaps predictable, death, had articulated before becoming a judge and appointed to the Seventh Circuit very strong anti-abortion views. While on the court, Justices Thomas, Justice Alito, and lower courts, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, have also expressed anti-abortion views in their decision in Dobbs, which last year overturned Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey also further supported those anti-abortion views. If this case goes up before the United States Supreme Court, there are many that are doubtful about the ability to be able to have access to mifepristone nationally. But it's worth noting that in Dobbs itself, Justice Alito and the majority said that these were matters that should be decided state by state and decided by people and through the electoral process. What you see, though, in this Texas ruling is that it removes that kind of deliberative political process away from the people, in that this is one judge who has effectively said that this drug should be withdrawn nationwide, including in the states where abortion is legal and protected.
So in the meantime, then, while we wait to see, of course, how this plays out in the court, where does access to mifepristone stand at this point in time for women who are seeking an abortion or who maybe need one for medical reasons?
Well, the order doesn't take effect immediately. In fact, there's 7 days that the judge gave in the case, Judge Kaczmarek, in order for the FDA to be able to appeal. And in fact, it did. Late last night, there was an appeal. And so the drug is still accessible. It is still available. The Biden administration has issued press statements about this. And so people who are managing a miscarriage, whose lives may be in danger, people who want to be able to terminate a pregnancy for whatever the reasons that may happen to be, this medication is still available. And it's also worth noting that this is a medication that's also used outside of the context of reproductive health care. And I can't get off your show without saying that in the United States, pregnancy, unfortunately, is still a deadly proposition. We are the leading industrialized country in maternal mortality and maternal morbidity, ranking around 55th in the world. In the United States, a woman or person with a capacity for pregnancy is 14 times more likely to die by carrying a pregnancy to term than by having an abortion. And even the Supreme Court has conceded that. So these are times where we should all be on alert and all watching for what happens next.
So given all of that then, Michele, and I have about 30 seconds left here, how are you thinking about where this abortion debate is headed in your country right now?
Well, this is a time of lawlessness more broadly. You might think about reproductive rights and what's happening as a proxy for what's happening in American democracy, where it really is a democracy that sadly is under attack.
Michele, thank you. We really do appreciate both your time and your perspective on this issue. Thank you so much for making some time for us this Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.